Hello, gals and guys. Welcome to another day of 5 movie reviews. This time we're going to review off the site called Vudu, and I've got 5 movies, as already mentioned, for you. It's kind of a mixed bag this time out. There's a classic that I've never seen before, which I'm not overly crazy about. There was a surprise movie that I really loved, and kind of middle of the road for the rest of them. So let's check out what we have for Vudu today. I gotta mention each video where I find these free streaming movies, the services and websites where I get these gems or sometimes gems. And here are the 5 movies that we will be covering this time out as far as free streaming movie reviews are concerned. And down below is where you can get the links to films to watch them on your own. They were live at least at the time that I reviewed them, so hopefully you can still jump on and check them out. And here's the Vudu logo, because that is the streaming service we're going to be covering today. So let us get started. Planet Terror is a 2007 American action horror film written and directed by Robert Rodriguez. Set in Texas, the film follows the survivors of a biochemical outbreak as they battle zombie-like creatures and a rogue military unit. It stars Rose McGowan, Freddie Rodriguez, Michael Biehn, Jeff Fahey, Josh Brolin, and Marley Shelton. The film was originally released theatrically as part of Grindhouse, a double feature that combined Planet Terror with Quentin Tarantino's Death Proof. After Grindhouse underperformed at the domestic box office, Planet Terror was released as a standalone feature in other countries and on home media. It received positive reviews, with most critics considering it the superior of Grindhouse's 2 films, and I concur with that statement. Robert Rodriguez first came up with the idea for Planet Terror during the production of The Faculty, another great movie. I remember telling Elijah Wood and Josh Hartnett, all these young actors, that zombie movies were dead and hadn't been around in a while, but that I thought they were going to come back in a big way because they'd been gone for so long, recalled Rodriguez. I said, we've got to be there first. I had a script I had started writing. It was about 30 pages, and I said to them, there are characters for all of you to play. We got all excited about it, and then I didn't know where to go with it. The introduction was about as far as I'd gotten, and then I got onto other movies. Sure enough, the zombie movie invasion happened, and they all came back again, and I was like, I knew that I should have made my zombie film. The story was reapproached when the idea for Grindhouse was developed by Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. According to the actress Marley Shelton, Rodriguez and Tarantino really co-directed at least Planet Terror. Quentin was on set a lot, he had notes and adjustments to our performance, and he changed lines every once in a while. Of course, he always deferred to Robert on Planet Terror and vice versa for Death Proof, so it's really both their brainchild. Tarantino has stated, I can't imagine doing Grindhouse with any other director in the way me and Robert did it, because I just had complete faith and trust in him, so much so that we didn't actually see each other's movie completed until 3 weeks before the film opened. It was as if we worked in little vacuums and cut our movies down and then put them together and watched it all play, and then made a couple of little changes after that, and pretty much that was it. Rodriguez acted as a cinematographer on Planet Terror, as he had done on some of his earlier films. It was really good to see Bruce Willis in a movie when he was still trying. There was a time most recently that Willis was appearing in shit movies, dialing in his performances, and now we all know that he's living with asphasia and was cashing in on his name as long as he could, and you can't blame the guy to making some buckage for his family. I really enjoyed this film and had a good time with the movie. This was a great, big, unsuspecting surprise for me. It's just one of those films you have zero expectations for and is pleasantly surprises and delivers. I highly recommend this movie for the Halloween season. Death Proof is a 2007 American black comedy film written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. It stars Kurt Russell as a stuntman who murders young women with modified cars he purports to be death-proof. Rosario Dawson, Vanessa Ferlito, Jordan Ladd, Rose McGowan, Sydney Tamala Poitier,
Tracy Thomas, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Zoe Bell co-star as the women he targets. The film was originally released theatrically as part of Grindhouse, a double feature that combined Death Proof with Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror, which I just reviewed. After Grindhouse underperformed at the domestic box office, Death Proof was released as a standalone feature in other countries and on home media. It received mostly positive reviews for its stunt sequence in tribute to exploitation cinema, although its pacing was criticized, and I will criticize that as well. During a night of drinking with his friend, Sean Penn, can you imagine drinking with Sean Penn? Tarantino learned about death-proofing cars from Penn. Tarantino developed a fascination with the concept, and the story for Death Proof developed from the way stuntmen would death-proof stunt cars so a driver could survive horrific, high-speed crashes and collisions. This inspired Tarantino to create a slasher film featuring a deranged stuntman who stalks and murders sexy young women with his death-proof car. Tarantino remembers, "I realized I couldn't do a straight slasher film because with the exception of women in prison films, there is no other genre quite as rigid. And if you break that up, you aren't really doing it anymore. It's inorganic, so I realized, let me take the structure of a slasher film and just do what I do. My version is going to be fucked up and disjointed, but it seemingly uses the structure of a slasher film, hopefully against you." Death Proof uses various unconventional techniques to make the film appear more like those were shown in Grindhouse theaters in the 1970s. Throughout the feature, the film was intentionally damaged to make it look like many of the exploitation films of the 1970s, which were generally shipped around from theater to theater and usually ended up in bad shape. A notable example of one of the film's deliberate jump cuts is seen at the beginning when the title Quentin Tarantino's Thunderbolt is shown for a split second before abruptly being replaced by an insert with the title Death Proof. Appearing in white lettering on a black background, exploitation films were commonly retitled, especially if they received bad press in the initial release. My review of this film will be the exact opposite of my review of Planet Terror. This one was a dud for me, especially after just watching Planet Terror. I probably should have watched this one first to build up to Planet Terror. This film was just plain boring most of the time. There's not enough plot here to fill a feature-length film. Maybe a half an hour or anthology series would have done this better, like Creepshow or something like that. There just wasn't enough meat for the runtime, and I found myself just staring out into the abyss, waiting for something to happen. It was all right. It was just way too damn long for what it was. The Monster, originally titled There Are Monsters, is a 2016 American monster horror film written and directed by Brian Bertino, starring Zoe Kazan and Ella Ballantine. The film was released through DirecTV Cinema on October 6th of 2016 before opening in a limited release on November 11th, 2016 via A24. Filming began in Ottawa, Ontario in the summer of 2015. Principal photography concluded on August 21st of 2015. Reflecting on the shoot, Kazan stated, "We were in a very isolated situation, shooting in rural Ontario, and there wasn't a lot around. Ella Ballantine and I were basically the only actors in the film, so we spent a tremendous amount of time together and with her mom. It wasn't all because we were just trying to bond for the movie, it was also because we enjoyed each other's company. It definitely helped that bond, as did the 3 days of rehearsal." Well, that certainly makes a movie much easier. The Monster's plot follows a troubled mother and her adolescent daughter who find themselves stranded at night on a country road with a malicious creature hunting them. This is one of those films with one location sort of type thingy-dingies. The creature was well made. It looked totally practical. It looked as if the use of computer effects were minimal. In a world of everything CGI, practical effects are like a warm blanket and good to see again. They bring so much more aesthetics to the film than those cold computer graphics. The dynamic between the main characters, mother and child, played well. Here's someone who was never a very good mother to her child, and now in the theater of both their demise, she steps up to rectify that, showing she does love her daughter. She just did everything wrong to show it, or maybe didn't know how to show it. For me, who has done a lot of stupid things in my life around booze and alcohol, I can understand the character of the mother. She made bad decisions that didn't make her a bad person, and it shows by the time we get to the end of the film. The Monster is a good character study inside a monster movie. It's a simple film that paces slowly at times. Because it's touched me due to the characters, it was well shot and produced, and the creature was awesome, I'm going to recommend the viewing for this Halloween season. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is a 2010 black comedy horror film directed by Ellie Craig and written by Craig and Morgan Jurgensen. It stars Tyler Labine, Alan Tudyk, Katrina Bowden, Brandon J. McLaren, Jesse Moss, and Shalon Simmons. Labine and Tudyk play a pair of well-meaning hillbillies who are mistaken for killers by a group of clueless college students. The film premiered at the 2010 Sundance Film Festival and received a limited release in the United States. The production began in June 2009 with a casting of actors. Principal photography started 1 month later in Calgary, Alberta. In October of 2009, post-production ensued in British Columbia, and the first images were released as part of the American film market. In an interview with Choice Cuts, director Ellie Craig expressed thoughts on a sequel titled Tucker and Dale Go to Yale and described it as Good Will Hunting meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Sure. In that same interview, Craig also liked Alan Tudyk's idea of doing a sequel that was similar to From Dusk Till Dawn. At Horror Hound Weekend 2014, cast members Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk confirmed that a sequel is in development. In 2016, the two revealed that they are still actively developing the project despite other commitments. When asked about the status of the sequel at Boston Comic-Con in 2017, Alan Tudyk responded that a script had been written but was disappointing and unlikely to move forward. And here we are at the end of 2023 and no word since. So I think that ship has sailed, that axe has cut, that chainsaw has chiseled. Do chainsaws chisel? I don't know. But that's all right. Let Tucker and Dale vs. Evil stand on its own. It's a fun, well-executed idea that doesn't need to be expanded on. It takes your typical horror teenagers in the woods tropes and flips them upside down. I love this film and is a great watch on the Halloween season. It's pretty humorous. It's not, I wasn't gut laughing out loud, but bring a chuckle to you, bring a smile to your face. It's silly, it's dumb, it's different. Check it out. Check it out this spooky season. Speaking of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, oh my God, you're not going to like this next one. Now, when I say you're not going to like this next one, you're not going to like my review for this next one, especially die-hard horror fans. I'm going to be talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came out in 1974, and that's an American horror film produced and directed by Tobe Hooper from a story and screenplay by Hooper and Kim Henkel. It stars Marilyn Burns, Paul A. Partain, Edwin Neal, Jim Sadow, and Gunnar Hansen, who respectively portray Sally Hardesty, Franklin Hardesty, the hitchhiker, the proprietor, and Leatherface. The film follows a group of friends who fall victim to a family of cannibals while on their way to visit an old homestead. The film was marketed as being based on true events to attract a wider audience. Not sure how true that is. I'm not sure how true these true events are. And to act as a subtle commentary on the era's political climate. I didn't see that at all. Although the character of Leatherface and minor story details were inspired by the crimes of murderer Ed Gein, G-E-I-N, its plot is largely fictional. No shit. It is the first film of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and it's the only one I'm ever going to watch. There's no way I'm going to watch the other ones. Hooper produced the film for less than $140,000 for the time and used a cast of relatively unknown actors drawn mainly from Central Texas, where the film was shot. The limited budget forced Hooper to film for long hours, 7 days a week, so that he could finish as quickly as possible and reduce equipment rental costs. Due to the film's violent content, Hooper struggled to find a distributor, but it was eventually acquired by Louis Pirano of Bryanston Distributing Company. Hooper limited the quantity of on-screen gore in hopes of securing a PG rating, but the Motion Picture Association of America rated it R, and the film faced similar difficulties internationally. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was banned in several countries, and numerous theaters stopped showing the film in response to complaints about its violence. While it initially drew a mixed reception from critics, it was highly profitable, grossing over $30 million at the domestic box office, equivalent to roughly over $150.8 million as of 2019, selling over 16.5 million tickets in 1974. It has since gained a reputation as one of the best and most influential horror films. That's where people are going to hate me because I couldn't stand the fucking thing. It is credited with originating several elements common in slasher genre, including the use of power tools as murder weapons, the characterization of the killer as a large, hulking masked figure, and the killing of victims. It led to a franchise, unfortunately, that continued the story of Leatherface and his family through sequels, prequels, a remake comic books and video games. The version I watched is labeled as the 40th anniversary edition. And again, don't hate me. Once again, this is a movie I never had any interest in seeing. It wasn't until seeing it was free to stream, and I needed free streaming movies to review, which I'm doing right now, to where I finally sat down and watched it. I know that's just crazy. I've been in this world for about the same amount of time as this film, and I've never watched it. That's probably blasphemy for a lot of horror fans. I had zero ideas what to expect from this movie. I can tell you I learned more about cow slaughtering than I ever cared to know about, and that was the first 15 minutes. It's pretty disturbing without showing you all the graphic details. I can imagine some 40 years ago how this would have been controversial. Not so much these days. We've seen far worse in movies like The Terrifier, but for people living in the 1970s, they must have gone apeshit. There was a point where I had to fast forward a little bit as it was getting annoying. It turned to nighttime, and all Frank and Sally said over and over and over again was, Jerry, Jerry, Jerry this, Jerry that, Jerry that, Jerry that. Oh my God, the whole scene was overkill. Now for some praise for this movie. How is it a movie that can be lit so well that takes place in the dead of night, where you can make out everything that is going on in the 1970s, yet filmmakers today can't figure it out? It was very well shot for nighttime. Either nighttime scenes are shot in the day and color graded to resemble night, or it's lit so badly you can't even tell what's going on. I'm talking about a lot of movies today. I'm not talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That is a praise towards them. I would think after a half decade of filmmaking, this would have been ironed out by now. I have a hard time recommending this movie. The ending is probably as disturbing as you can get, to the point of being uncomfortable. I don't think I can classify it as any sort of entertainment on any level. I don't want to see anyone tortured on this level, pretend or not pretend. We all know this shit happens in real life, so me sitting here watching it does not sit well. Perhaps that's the debate of the film. Should this have been filmed? I hate to put a limit on people's creative freedoms, even to the level of exploitation this film reaches. I'd say it was even more disturbing than the rape scene in the film I Spit on Your Grave. For this, I don't recommend this movie. It's barely a movie. It's the pure definition of torture porn. I know it's considered a classic. I think the end was a big pile of shit. The beginning was fine, but by the time I got to the last frame, I was glad it was over. Any joy I had when I started watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was gone by the end, and I was just left with thoughts of, I can't believe I just watched that piece of shit. And it is a piece of shit to me. I don't recommend it. I know people love this movie. It's considered a horror classic. I think it's a big pile of shit. You can hate me now. And to check out the movies from Vudu this Halloween season, just simply go to the link that's in the description, go to free, and then there you go. Pretty simple on this one. They're hit horror, and then you're going to see a lot of recognizable ones that have been there for a long, long time. This was pretty good, actually. This Pennywise, the story of it, I just happened to catch it. It's a documentary, so it's a documentary of the miniseries that was on TV, and it's actually pretty good. So I would recommend that. Just to caught my eye. So just go through here, guys and gals, like you always do, and see if anything floats your boat. I'm seeing some I've seen, some terrible ones I've seen. I don't see anything that's hit me over the head that I've seen that I could further recommend. But I wish you a happy Halloween 2023. Still got 4 more days to go for more horror movies, so check out the rest of the week. And I appreciate you as always. Please subscribe if you could. And please share with your fellow horror aficionados. And hit the bell for updates. And I'll see you tomorrow. Same spooky time. Same spooky day. No, different spooky day. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.